This is Sneaker Gears. My name is Levi, and welcome to a special episode of Power Gears. We're going to give you a complete and comprehensive review on all the lifting or squatting shoes on the market, and really what works best for you and what your goals are. So we're going to separate this into a few different categories, one of which is your kind of beginning or starting category. And that's going to start off with just your basic training shoe. If you're just starting to lift, I would recommend, if you don't have a lifting or training shoe, it's almost better to squat or deadlift barefoot than it is to do basketball or running shoes. So let's get that out of the way. Starting with a basic training shoe, what we're showing here today is the JJ Watt 2. This is what I recommend as the best overall trainer in the market, meaning you can do literally everything in it, and you can do it very well. It's cushioned, has a stable heel, and it's a very good entry level where maybe you don't know what you want to do. This shoe is going to excel at a variety of things. Now, obviously here in 2018, there's a few shoes that might dethrone that, but we'll get to that at a later date. Another thing, if you are looking and you already have a training shoe, something like the VersaLift, which is a brand that allows you to put up to a half-inch heel lift in a shoe, that may be all you need. So the kind of second round of shoes are the half-inch lift. Now, there's not too many out there nowadays, but these are ones you maybe can find either on discount or possibly use or what have you. And that's your Reebok, either lifters, Lifter Plus. I have what's called here the Reebok Covert. This was a half-inch heel lift, and this goes into your kind of starting or first off categories, because what it does, it uses a solid foam. So it's not quite a completely hard platform, but it is going to be much better than your average runner or basketball shoe. So this is a half-inch, which you'll notice a difference if you're just coming from regular shoes in the stability and that little bit of a lift, which hopefully will help with your mobility. So the goal with the lifting shoe is not only to aid in mobility, but even if you have that flexibility, it allows you to get either deeper into the hole or possibly more comfortable. So Reebok did have a version of this called the PR. That was another half-inch, and that's something, again, I would recommend. What we have next here is the Innovate. This is a shoe that I was able to get for about $80. Retail is a little bit higher, but this is going to give you a 0.67 inch heel height. So a little bit higher than your half-inch. Definitely something you can feel if you're squatting for the first time. These are one of my first squatting shoes, so I definitely felt the difference. Now, these are also one of the most flexible and lightest lifters on the market. So this is going to cater to something if you're in CrossFit or if you're going to do other things besides just lifting. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're doing some Olympic lifts, but then you're getting on a rowing machine, or you have to go and do burpees. It's something you can wear, maybe not very comfortably, but because of the lightweight and the flexibility, you can get away with it. Now, one of the best shoes I recommend for kind of all around is a very quiet no-name shoe from Adidas, and I shouldn't say no name, but it's not very popular, the Addy Power lifter. So this is one that has a 0.63 inch heel height, so a little bit less. I can't really say you'll feel the difference per se, but it does have a more flexible forefoot as well as a cushioned forefoot. So what that means is you're able to actually use this very comfortably in doing double unders and actually even doing box jumps and what have you, just because you can do your squats in this shoe. You can do your Olympic lifts in this shoe where you have that stability in the heel, but you have that cushion in the forefoot. So this is a very unique shoe in the entire market of the entire collection we have here. Now, once we go up from that 0.63, that 0.67, kind of that range, you do get in your traditional 3/4 or 0.75 inches. Many shoes for a lot of years, this is the standard heel height. Now, a brand new shoe that just came out that I was not able to test, or I don't know if I have a need to buy it, is the Adidas Power Perfect 3. Now, this is a shoe that does give you that 3/4 inch heel height, but it's also a solid foam. So it's actually very new and unique to the market. It retails for about $130, which is generally very reasonable. Most lifting shoes are costing upwards of $200. So this does give you what may appear to be a better value. Joel, from as many reviews as possible, I did reach out to him and he said it's been a solid shoe. He can definitely recommend it, and if you're getting to very heavy weights, you'll be able to use this and enjoy it. Now, the reason I don't recommend it, and we're going to get into our first 3/4 inch shoe, is the Romaleo 3s, which we have right here. these are not necessarily replacing Romeo 2s, just because they are a very different shoe. You're getting a 3/4 inch shoe, but you're getting something that is actually very lightweight, very flexible. This is something that I think works really well for weightlifting, or i.e. Olympic lifts, just because it allows you to do those explosive movements where you're not being restricted by having heavyweight shoes on your feet. And once you go into something like the Addy Power, which has been very traditional over the years, if you're coming from Romeo 2s, you're going to notice that weight and that flexibility make a huge difference. Now, the nice thing about the Romeo 3 is it is still very stable, but the thing I don't like about it, we'll take a look here, is you can see how flexible it is, and obviously you can't feel it. It's very lightweight. There's nothing very high-end about this shoe. It is a completely fuse upper. It has kind of like a seatbelt strap on it that's kind of thin. It does use fly wire to lock you down, so it's not using anything fancy, any high-end materials, yet it does retail for $200. Now, in reality, the Romeo 3 has been on sale in multiple colorways for about $150, and Nike has had, at least at 3 different times, 25% off of that price. So you're really able to get a Romeo 3 for about $112, and it is a very different shoe than what we're going into next, which is your either heavier weight shoes or your higher heel shoes. So getting into the Addy Power, this is one that's generally been about $200. That's kind of your segment standard. It is now, because of new colorways coming out, you're able to get it for around $150 in most places. I was fortunate enough to get it for about $100. And the reason I kind of quote those prices to you, because a lot of times, if you can get a good deal on a lifting shoe, even if it's not perfect for you, it's something that will still do the job. But the Addy Power is a very traditional lifting shoe. It's been around for a very long time. It is on the heavier side of the gambit as far as lifting, and I would definitely recommend it more for just powerlifting or squatting, not necessarily Olympic lifts, even though they have been used for many years in that facet. And that's just because they're not very flexible and they are a little bit on the heavier side. And that takes us to our Reebok Legacy. So the Reebok Legacy is something that came out last year, I believe, maybe it's 2 years, and it was worked on with CJ Cummings by Reebok. This is a very heavy weight. I would say it's probably over a pound each shoe, and it's on a size 12 here. But the lockdown is incredible with the dual straps. I can grab that here. The fit has been fantastic. Reading any reviews online, I think most people have been pleasantly surprised how secure you feel in this shoe. That weight really does feel like it almost sucks you to the ground. You have a very solid anchored feeling. So no matter how heavy you're going, this shoe is definitely going to stabilize you. One, obviously with that heel height at 0.87 inches, this is something that even if you have mobility, again, it's going to allow you to get deeper into that squat or to that lift. Or if you don't have mobility, it definitely does aid you very well so you can comfortably get into the correct depth. It does have a very smooth transition from heel to toe, so you don't feel like your heel is just raised up there in a sharp angle, and we'll talk about some of the shoes that have that. But overall powerlifting, this has been fantastic. So going into the next level is the 1 inch heel height and higher. There's a few of those, but I have the Position USA, and I forget the name of this one. I love the Medusa logo, but they use a completely wooden heel. So this is going to give you some of the best energy transfer. This allows you at 1 inch to really get to depth. My friend Juan here, who's been doing these lifts, you can see how his feet are able to get a lot closer together comfortably, and that doesn't make it a better lift, but generally you're getting to the position that is most comfortable for you versus maybe having to force your feet out because you can't get to depth and open up. You can come in a little bit closer. Maybe you can put your feet a little bit more straight where you can get a little more power behind those lifts. Now, the nice thing about this is even at 1 inch, it does have some nice flexibility. The weight of the shoe is not nearly as what the Legacy is at or the Addy Power, some of the other shoes. So it's definitely on the higher weight of the scale if you're coming from like your Innovates or your Nike Romeo 3s, but it's a nice balance. This is also one of the few shoes, if you look at it, it's not completely straight in the front here. So you have that fully solid base, and then that slight toe lift, which makes it excellent for weightlifting or your Olympic lifting. If you're doing cleans, you're doing snatches, just because it allows you to get that powerful toe off and really land and have a solid landing. The Velcro strap on this is actually really, really wide, even though they're using one, so you have great containment. This has been my personal go-to, and we'll get into that, what works best for you, in just a bit. Above the 1 inch mark is going to be your Adidas Legacy 2. That's going to be about 1 1/4 inch, or 1.15, forgive me. The reason I don't like that shoe, and you can kind of see it in some of the images, it does have a very sharp heel to toe drop where you're angled quite a bit. What that means is it almost feels like it's pushing you on your toes, and you have to focus more on staying on your heels versus just that being natural. So the Legacy, again, after talking to Joel from as many reviews as possible, even if you watch his reviews, even he is not quite comfortable with that heel drop and how it's not very fluid. Now above the 1.15 is your Foos lifter. This is another kind of overseas shoe. It is a wood heel, and this is going to give you a 1.26 inch heel lift. This is probably the highest in the market that I know of, but it does have a very smooth drop. This is another one I probably do want to try, but again, it's more personal. And we'll get into that right now. So when you're looking for your weightlifting shoe, you really have to look at what your goals are, what you're competing in, and what your level of mobility and your needs are. So if we're in CrossFit, generally you're not really lifting past 95 pounds, 155 pounds, and you're doing more work to increase your work capacity. So having something lightweight, having something flexible, having something that you can do multiple training in, so you're not just using it for lifting and then you have to change shoes, is going to be a little bit more advantageous. If you're a general lifter and you're just working on maybe your powerlifting moves, but you want to have certain goals, my goals are about 450 pound squat. My deadlift is about 500. I'd love to get it to 6. And with those weights, I don't need a huge, heavy shoe. So the Reebok Legacy, although fantastic, I'm nowhere near pushing the bounds of what that's truly meant for. So you can get it and be secure knowing that it's definitely going to meet your needs. And then finally, just whatever your budget is. Obviously, a lot of these go for around $200. To give you an idea, I was able to get my Romaleo for about $50 at one of the outlets. I was able to get the Reebok Legacy on one of their kind of package deals for $120. And one of the best deals, and this is kind of an off the wall for a lot of the CrossFitters out there. This is a unique shoe, I guess even not for CrossFit, just for a general trainer going to the gym, the Crazy Power. This is $175. I was fortunately able to get it for about $60 because of the forefoot flexibility and the cushion in the forefoot. You can easily do double unders in this. You can use this walking around the gym, but you still have that stable heel. Now, it's not going to be as high, and that's where you get into what your personal needs are. I always try to work on my mobility. I've gotten a ton better in the years. So I do try to work my way from using the position lifters at 1 inch to using the Innovates at 0.67, and then just going, well, not flat foot, but like your traditional trainers like a Metcon, which is 4 millimeters. And I do that just so I can continue working on my mobility, working my angles, your body. That's not necessarily for everybody. I can't give you a reason that, hey, this is why you should do it. But hopefully, if you already have a lifting shoe, if you're looking to get another one just because either you want something different or yours has worn out, you at least want to get something that's going to add to your arsenal that'll make you better, or it's going to be different than what you have. So if you already have an Addy Power or Romaleo 2, that's going to be very similar to your Reebok Legacy. Going with something like a the Romaleo 3, that's going to be very lightweight, a lot more flexible, or going with something like your Crazy Power will add to what you already have. So there is definitely a separation here between what you're using, what your mobility issues are. If you do need more mobility than what your 1/4 inch or your 3/4 inch shoe gets you, your 0.75 inches, your position at 1 inch, your Leistings at 1.15, and your Foos is going to help you get to depth and or feel more comfortable getting even lower in the hole. So there's always a reason, whether it's going to be your personal mobility or flexibility issues, or whatever your goals are lifting. Now, if you're wondering why a lot of these Olympic lifters use something like the Legacy or the Addy Power when they already have incredible mobility, is because they can get even lower. And they're trying to get as low as possible when you're throwing 300-400 pounds over your head, which is crazy. Now, that brings me to two shoes I didn't talk about, and that's going to be your Anta weightlifting shoe. You can get those on hookgrip.com. And again, this is from discussions with Joel in as many reviews as possible. That shoe is almost, and obviously not a knockoff, that came first, but Reebok based their Legacy, what appears to be a lot from that shoe. So you're getting very similar weight, very similar heel height, very similar build. And I say all that because the Reebok is here in the US. If you have an issue, you can return it, you can exchange it. Customer services here. So those two shoes, I can't really give you a good reason why you should go with the Anta unless you want to be different. And I did want to get that shoe, but after experiencing Legacy and how well built that shoe is, I really don't have a need for anything else. Same thing goes for your Leisting. That's 1.15 inches, and I did want to try something with a little bit higher heel, but after having experienced the 1-inch heel height, again, for my personal needs, it's been fantastic. I don't really feel a benefit to going higher up, especially as my mobility is increasing. That has been a fantastic shoe to use. Your other shoe I did not talk about is your Noble Lifter, and I actually do have that behind me here. This is probably the most expensive lifter on the market that I'm aware of. This is a $300 lifting shoe. It has a 3/4 inch, 0.75 inch heel. The uniqueness of the shoe is it does have elements that are handmade, and this is a leather stack sole. So it's not TPU, it's not wood, so this is very unique. So this actually makes it actually fairly comfortable walking around in. Obviously, with that stacked heel, well, I shouldn't say obviously, if you haven't tried it on, it's very, very stable. The shoe uses what's called super fabric, and between that, the build quality, the lockdown, it really does feel almost bulletproof. This shoe is definitely on the luxury side of the spectrum. I generally would keep these shoes in my car because I didn't know what I was doing that day. You know, if I'm doing squats, front squat, if I'm doing snatches, I know this shoe is going to do very well. It's kind of in that middle ground, similar to the Position, where it's heavy enough where you feel stable, but it's still quite a bit lighter than your Addy Powers and your Legacies, or something like your Romboleo 3s, which are very lightweight. So this is a nice middle ground where anybody can wear this and have success and use it for any kind of lift. And again, for the price, though, at $300, I can't necessarily tell you it does anything necessarily better, but I can tell you it is an absolutely amazing shoe that you can use for anything, and this really will last you a lifetime. Now, that's a benefit I can say for the Noble, but for most of these shoes, maybe not the Romoleos, just the way they're made. They're very thin. The Romboleo 3, these shoes are meant so you spend the money, but you can use these for literally life. You can get them resold and just keep using them. There's a lot of old lifters who are people who have used lifters for 20, 30, 40 years. They get them resold, they get them redone, and it's something you can just continually use them. So if you're going to spend $200 on a shoe, it's something where hopefully you can feel the value and, hey, you're going to keep this a long time. Or if you set your budget at $100, at least be confident if you're able to be hopefully even a little patient, you can get the shoe that you want or maybe that works best for you for very close to that price point. So I will put a full article with some graphs on sneakergears.com if you needed to go over everything, as well. I'll be more than happy to go through the comments and answer any questions you guys may have. But that's kind of a full breakdown. This has been a few years in the making as far as putting the collection together. Thank you to my friend Juan for showing the different lifts and the benefits to each one of these shoes. And it's kind of cool once you have these shoes together and you compare the benefits, the pros, the cons, how different they really are. And although you can buy any one of these and do whatever lifts you're going to do, getting the one that's meant for you and your goals will be able to make a difference. My friend who actually always wanted the Addy Powers and didn't quite have them in the past, he tried those on, and after trying on the Romboleo 3s, he was shocked to feel the difference of having what a lightweight shoe feels like when you're doing 50, 80 snatches in a practice, and as well as just having that not only lightweight, but the flexibility. You know, you're not worried about it, not hitting your toe or what have you. Just feel so much more comfortable. So although he could do all the lifts in Addy Power, if he got it on sale, he'd be absolutely fine in it. That's something that's going to work better for him. And the same thing goes to something like the Reebok Legacy. If you're a power lifter and you're getting into 500 plus pound squats, 600, 700 as they go up. What the record is past 1,000 now, I believe. That's something where you have that stability. It's absolutely amazing. If your goals are really just, hey, I want to squat my body weight, then you can do with something like your Power Perfect 3s, where it's with a foam heel, or you can do with something like the Innovates with a lower heel height, and that goes to your personal mobility as well. So looking at those three things, looking at all these shoes, hopefully you're able to go through that, find what works best for you. Guys, really appreciate your time, really appreciate Juan for helping out through this video. I look forward to hearing the questions and answering it and being of any help I can be for everyone out there. This is Levi with Sneaker Gears. Appreciate you guys, and we'll come back soon.